This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
Like both of us, every human pivots like a bazillion times to get to the place that they're at, right?
Bazillion.
And they always are like, I would never change a thing. And I'm like, oh, there's a few things I would change.
I have a list.
Yeah. My life could have been a hell of a lot easier if I would have done these. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I ask because I feel like I was hypersensitive to that in the environment that I grew up in. Yeah. And so I think that that's something I'm trying to unlearn. And so even you just saying that out of the blue was something that I'm like, I'm doing better about it, but it's a hard thing to pull out of when you're like, because it affects how I act, right? Like it's affecting my decisions, the things I would choose for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm more worried about how it's going to make so-and-so feel or how am I coming across? And I will say I've gotten a lot better at it, but it was something, I actually was just talking about it with my friend a lot because I think part of growing up in my home environment definitely played a part in that. And then dancing and being in that space where always like looking for external validation constantly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you're also with dance. That's probably a really good example. You're always constantly judged too, right?
Always.
Like I'm probably always constantly judged as well, but it's such a load. It doesn't matter,
right?
Like if someone like judges, like I don't like him or I like him a lot, like it's kind of like well,
it doesn't really affect you either way.
Yeah, but if you're a dancer, right, and it's like especially now that it's your career, right, and it's like well, it does affect things. It actually affects my income and
totally. Yeah, that's it. And even growing up, like auditioning. The friends that you'd have, the shows you'd be in, the parts all of that. It definitely is a part of that. Yeah. I haven't really thought about it like that either. Yeah.
Was auditioning fun?
Auditioning is a mixed bag for me. Mm-hmm. I have a lot more fun auditioning now than I did growing up. And I think part of that is just like being more confident about what you bring, right? It's not a question anymore. And I feel like as you're growing up, you're still like a little unsure. Could I have done that better? Should I have done it like them? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Should I dance more like Mark, less like Mark?
I always ask my question. That's the question I always ask myself is, am I dancing enough like Mark?
Dude, there's a few times when I was in a riot dance where I was like, Kelli, be proud.
I believe it. 100% I believe it.
Like 3 moves in a row. Boom. That's about all I can get.
Hello, choreo. Okay. I love that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm super excited to have you on the podcast because
thanks.
It's not every day you get Zac Efron's first crush.
Thank you. Right? Exactly. His very first one. No, probably wasn't his first, but he did tell me he had a crush on me once.
Did he really?
He really did that.
See, I'm just intuitive.
That really happened. He's like, he like sees this. He's like, that didn't happen. It did. I promise. I remember. It happened on my little tiny bitty itty phone.
I was going to say, if he sees this, then we should absolutely amp this up a little bit because...
Buddy, remember me?
If it's funny enough, he'll repost it. He's like, yeah, me and this chick when we were... How old were you when you met him?
So when we filmed the first High School Musical, I was 15.
15?
Yep.
Yeah.
15. Yeah, it was a really fun time. That was like such an incredible experience. And it was cool too because no one was famous yet besides Ashley Tisdale. She was like the blonde one.
Was she?
Played Sharpay. She was on a TV show already, but everyone else was pretty much new. And so there really wasn't any, I don't know, hierarchy like or ego. Yeah, it was really super fun. Not that it got crazy through the years when we filmed the others as well. I feel like everyone always like stayed pretty grounded and always very kind. But that first one was just so fun because, I mean, I remember we would go dancing or we would, me and Zac and one of the other actors, Chris, and my friend Britt, who's a dancer, phenomenal dancer. We all went and snuck into Wedding Crashers with Chris's dad. And that was a big deal because I was only 15 and that was rated R. Okay.
Yeah.
But that stuff like that, it's just like, yeah, it was a really interesting, incredible experience. There's not a lot. We were just kind of talking about this where you're like, I'd go back and change it or I'd want to do that again. Those movies, I would 1,000,000% wish I could go back and just re-experience as like an adult, understanding like how special that was. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
It's a really cool thing. We were joking earlier, and we've joked about this a million times. The first time I watched High School Musical, you were sleeping in the basement of my house. Because I was like, I mean, I've heard about it. I've seen clips. Don't get me wrong, right? And my little sister, I can't remember if I told you this. She actually served food to you guys. So she was like,
oh, really?
Staff? I don't know what you call that.
Okay.
But
like in catering?
Yeah, she worked for the catering company that like catered it, like whatever, right?
That's awesome.
So when she was doing it, right? I'm trying to think, because she was, how old are you? You're 35?
35.
So she's like,
that was supposed to be a secret, but I guess cat's out of the bag.
Oh, geez.
Just kidding.
Sorry. So I'm trying to place with my sister. My sister's probably 2 years older than you, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And so I think she was like 17 or 18 probably when you were doing it.
Yeah.
So, but like she would tell me about it. Yeah, we're doing this thing called High School Musical, and I was just kind of like, okay, like.
Right.
Didn't really think much about it, right? Because like Utah has a lot of movies that are shot here. So I was like, okay.
Lots of things come through Utah, and I mean, I think this started like anything else, but I do remember there was a point where we were in the middle of filming, and Kenny Ortega, who's the director, and he's done a lot of incredible things, Dirty Dancing, all kinds of things, Hocus Pocus.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's quite cool.
Oh, he's super cool. But I remember him looking over to my mom, who's a choreographer on it, and the other co-choreographer with them. They all did it together. And he just looked at them and was like, this is going to be really special, guys. Like, this is going to be a lot bigger than than you think right now. It's going to be way bigger. Oh. And it was a cool moment to really see that happen and how it just like blew up. It was so wild. Yeah. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an incredible experience. All 3 of those. And to be able to go into the second one and have like 7 words that I say.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Do you not speak in the first one?
No.
Oh.
No. No.
You do dance a lot.
Dance a lot.
Yep.
Cheerleader in the first one. One of Sharpay's little Sharpettes in the second one.
Was the first one where you get off the bus, you and your sister, and you're like dancing on coming off the bus? Or did I pick a different one? I can't remember if I watched
No,
this.
I think that's right.
That's the first one, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. I haven't seen them
Next time
so
you
long.
stay over, I'll have to watch all 3 back to back.
Just watch them all. just a marathon of High
There's
School
something
Musical.
about it. I don't know. I find it like super charming that you were in it. Because you own it too, right? You're not like, well, I mean,
oh no,
yeah, you think it's dope.
It's so cool. And it was such a cool moment in my life, and that I've been able to, it's been interesting. Like, there was a moment where I got to travel to Peru.
Yeah.
And was working in this orphanage, and they had a movie night, and they did High School Musical too with me being there, and they spoke to me, and being able to share those moments and kind of like connect with people outside of just me alone, it has been really cool. And be able to teach the dances, and to even just the things I learned being on set, and being able to share those things with young dancers or people in general. Like, it's the gift that keeps giving. No,
it's like a massive privilege, right? To like be able to do that. You know, as a fellow stage actor,
you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. No, but like when I did Potiphar at the Eccles, right? Like, it was funny because people were like, I can't believe you're doing this. And I'm like, then you don't know me very well. Like, are you kidding me? A musical?
Hello.
I found the one musical I don't have to sing in. And I did kind of sing a little bit.
That one. I went to that one.
But like,
can you bring that one to hell?
Yeah, to hell. Dude, but I remember being up there and like just soaking it in.
Yeah.
The first night, and I wasn't really nervous either, right? I mean,
cool.
like probably like 5 seconds before I went on stage, I was like, oh shit, okay, here we go, can't go back.
Right.
And I don't know, have you heard this whole story? Like, I went on stage, I came out 12 seconds early.
No, you don't.
Oh, I was so livid. I wasn't livid, I was like, oh shit.
You're just like, dang it.
Yeah, so the narrator, right, her character's across from me, and like there's this kind of musical scene right before Potiphar comes out, right? I go walking out, right? Spotlight hits me, they dim the lights, and I'm like looking at her like, Lexi, come on. You know what I mean? Like, we're supposed to meet
like,
in the middle.
This is not my fault.
And she's like, kind of just gives me this like, you're way too early.
Well, what are you doing?
And I'm like, oh shiz. So I like kind of turn and look out to the crowd, which if you've ever been on stage, it's black, right? Because the lights are out, so it just is black. You can feel the energy coming from it. And so I just turned around and went like this. Because I had like 60 or 70 people there for me, right? And they all start going crazy. And then Devin, the musical director, like bumps it a couple bars and kind of like speeds it up. And then she comes walking out. All of a sudden, the whole beehive starts happening.
That's
and
so funny.
It was funny. It was, and also it was awesome.
Oh, it's so fun. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like being on stage. There's nothing like being able to share that with an audience. There's I will say that there's a lot of times I do see the audience more clearly than, And I've seen some funny things, especially doing shows like Cirque du Soleil, where you perform 10 times a week.
Yeah.
And it really becomes pretty monotonous. And so you can kind of like, oh, what am I doing? I mean, you shouldn't, but there was definitely times that I was like, what should I make for dinner as I'm like doing the dances and stuff. But I mean, it happens, right? It just becomes muscle memory and you don't have to like think about it as much.
Especially if you're in it, like I was in the play for like, I don't know, 7 minutes or something, right?
Right.
So it's like, if, you know, the rest of the time I'm just backstage, like, you know,
totally.
chilling, like soaking it in. Yeah,
exactly. But I've seen some funny things out in the audience as well, but there's just nothing like that energy exchange. And I've had some audiences where it is terrible. Like I'm like pulling the energy out of them. But then there's other times that it's just like you come off so energized yourself. Like I could have just danced my face off and I'm like ready to go again because they just gave me so much back. Yeah. It's a very special thing to experience. I'm super grateful for it. Yeah. It's definitely shaped a lot of my life. I mean, dance in general has I would say completely shaped my entire life.
Yeah.
From the people in it to my experiences and what I've learned. And I mean, dance has brought everything good. Yeah. And some bad, but mostly good.
Well, of course.
Everything in general, all across the board.
Well, there's always good and bad in everything, but
for sure.
The cool part about it is you're actually, as you know, like you're very talented. Oh, thanks. Right? But when you get to that level, you're also with like a bunch of other talented people, right? So it's a very high, it's very high level is like how I like to explain it.
Totally.
And like, you know, the play that I was in, like every single one of those people are like, well, not every single one of them, but I mean, they've all been in plays for like 20 years. Right. Most of those, and everyone had done that play before.
They're veterans. They've been there.
Oh yeah. And it was like, and you could tell. Right. I mean, it was just like muscle memory and they're all having fun and they're trying to get me to have fun with them too. And I just did whatever. Like right before, you know, there's like 12 brothers or 9 brothers, or I think it's 12. There's 12 brothers, right? And they're like back there and they're all dancing and like jumping up and down, trying to get like ready to go on stage. And I'm kind of like staring at the stage like, okay, here we go, man. And they're like, dude, you got to get some energy, right? So I start dancing with them and, you know, singing with them and all this kind of shiz. And
that's awesome.
I'll tell you, the one thing that I got, like the only time I ever got intimidated was...
Which, let's write this down because this is probably the only time in history that Mark has ever been
No,
intimidated
it's
by
happened
anything.
a few times. It's not very often.
Make a note.
But so we do sound check, right? Or mic check or whatever you want.
Yep,
sound check. Mm-hmm. And I go last. So the first guy gets up, right? And they're, all right, Casey, you know, he's the lead, right? So he just sings his beautiful song, right? Next dude's beautiful song, girl, song. And I'm like, all right. So it gets down to me, right? And I go, you are my fire. And I kind of like looked over at like 2 of my buddies, right? And they're just like, yeah, dude. And then the person that's up is like, do your lines. And I'm like, pyramids, because they gotta like actually check my levels.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm not gonna stand up here and freaking not sing.
Hello.
So it's fun.
Yep. Don't threaten me with a good time. Give me a microphone and an audience. Hello.
But you feel pretty cool, dude, getting your mic all taped on you. You know,
it's
just
really
kind of
cool.
like sitting there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that you got to experience that as not what you do is so cool because people work their whole life to have that experience.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of them don't get it. You know, they work really hard and they have talent and for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen for them. And so that you got to have that.
Oh, when I went to the first practice, cause you know me, I'm the most unassuming dude ever. I'm just like, hey, I'm here. What's up? We've never done any choreography, nothing, right? I just showed up. Right.
I love it.
In fact, to be honest, I haven't even heard the songs until that week.
Oh my gosh.
So I go in there and I'm actually sitting next to Casey, who's the lead. And he's on his computer working on something. They're doing something in the little dance area or whatever. Right. And he's like, yeah, how many musicals have you been in? I'm like, oh, none. And every one of them was like, what? Like, what do you mean you've never been in one of these before? And I'm like, yeah, I've never done this.
Oh my gosh.
Well, how did you get this role? I'm like, oh, the producer's a buddy of mine. He used to work for me. And they're just like, every single one of them. And then there was, none of them were mad. They were just shocked.
No,
right?
for
They were
sure.
just like, oh, I actually auditioned for this. You know?
I actually worked really hard and stressed out and prepared.
Yeah.
No.
And like, the other thing that's funny too is when people would be like, oh, you're in this play? I'm like, yeah. And then like they basically thought I was like bought my way into it or something like that, right? Which is not beyond me. I would absolutely buy my way on this stage.
You're like, I already bribed them to bring this show.
Well, I'm actually getting paid. I actually got freaking paid to do it.
Amazing.
I was like, shit, yeah.
It's super cool. I mean, networking is such a huge part of our worlds.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that for a long time I was like, and maybe it's because my mom was who she was. And so I didn't want to admit how important that is, right? To know the right people. Because I was very lucky. I was super fortunate. And because she was involved in cool things, I got to be involved in cool things. And that meant I still had to be talented. I still had to be able to like rise to the occasion. They wouldn't put me into something if I like wasn't looking good. I hope that never happened.
You're not a Nepo baby or whatever.
Yeah. But that was something that until recently, or until it was actually not recent. Oh God. Like you said, 35, it's been a while, but I would say early 20s, where I was like finally realizing that how you show up, how you treat people, how you decide to nurture those relationships really affects your career moving forward. And it's not like I was mean to people. It wasn't like that's not who I am at all. But I just don't think I really thought about it. I think that it was just one of those things that I was a really bad circ employee. Terrible, absolutely horrible, because I was, to give myself a little credit, I was super young. I was 19. Feels super young now. Then it didn't feel so young. But I was 19, had just been married, moved out of the state into a new place, moved to Las Vegas, doing this show 10 times a week. I was crazy overwhelmed. It wasn't my best personal mental space in general. And so I was calling out all the time. I was getting injured a lot. And, I think I just felt like, well, I'll always be there. I'll always be there. And later on, after our show closed, there was an opportunity for me to go work for Cirque again. Or it presented itself to me to audition, and I got down all the way to the end, and I didn't get it, and I was like a little surprised. Not gonna lie, I was like, "Excuse me,"
Yeah.
But I didn't get it, and later I was like, "Why in the world would they hire me again? Why?" Yeah. There's someone that they probably don't have to pay as much, and they are there and eager, and they've already seen me. I came and I didn't show up. I didn't do my best. And there are consequences to that. And it was a huge lesson for me to learn. And something that with my company now, The Collective, we talk about that a lot with our young dancers. It was how you're showing up, what energy you're bringing, if you're being a good teammate, all of that. Everyone is watching always. And even if you're coming into audition, if you're standing with your hands over your chest like this, and you're probably not being judgy or not being mean, but you might be thinking about like what you're having for dinner, right? Or what you're going to cook, or what you're doing after, or the fight you just had with your boyfriend, or whatever it is. But how I'm looking at you from behind the desk that's like watching the audition is it's like, oh, they seem rude. Yeah. Never mind. And it's that quick. And so that's something we try to talk about a lot with these girls or these dancers, is because it can be that little that's like between you getting it and her getting it. It's the moment you didn't hold the door open for the girl behind you. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh.
I'll tell you, even in hiring in, the business world or whatever you want to call where I'm at, dude, I freaking judge the shit out of people on this stuff. Right. The only way that when I hire people, I hire a personality every single time. Because generally you have to have enough skills in business just to exist, right? And then after that, you got to train them anyways, right? So as long as you're training someone you like fits the culture, you get a high probability of them working out. Yeah. But if you have someone who's perfect candidate, but they don't fit the culture, you're stupid to hire them. Yeah. It's kind of the same principle, right?
It totally is. I mean, we always say, or when we talk about this, you will get hired once because you're talented. You'll get hired once because you're talented. You get hired twice because people like working with you. Yeah. And that's the realness of our job is, you don't get hired and you're usually not doing something for years and years and years. Usually, maybe you get a 2-year contract with something. That's on the more rare side. And so the turnover is a lot in our business. And so if you are someone that it gets around that you're hard to work with, or rude, or lazy, or running late all the time, like people will stop hiring you immediely because you're just making everyone's energy lower, or making things harder, or just making it not fun. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been in behind the table during an audition so many times where so-and-so will like come in and we're looking at what usually happens is we have their resumes and headshots, right? And so we're like looking and seeing, and I've seen my mom just grab a marker and be like, nope, and flip them over, right? Yeah. And it's because we just would rather not deal. And that's just the bottom line is you've got to show up and be your best all the time. Otherwise, I don't know. What do you expect from people, you know?
Right. I have this principle that I think is brilliant, but it's, you ready for this?
Make a note.
Everyone write this down.
Everyone write this down.
It's because people are like, well, how do I do this? And how to be better? And how, it's all these things like, where do I get? And really at the end of the day, it's like, you need to be likable. Truly. Like 100%, it's all about being likable. There's 3 pillars to that. Competent, honest, and fun. You're all 3 of those things, but you can't be 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
But if you're all 3 of those and you're likable, you will get hired. You will do business deals. You will be invited to parties.
Right.
You'll be invited to hang out. Like that's where those doors actually open for you when you become likable.
Right.
But a lot of people get wrapped up in that. Well, likable is just fun. It's like, no, like I have a friend, right? I won't call him out. And he is really fun to hang out with for about 5 hours a year. Right?
Right.
Because I've had people being like, why do you hang out with this guy? And I'm like, because it's kind of fun. We act like we're 9 years old for 5 hours and then I get to leave. But every day, hell no.
Right.
You know, because like, not that he's not honest or competent. We don't do business together. He's just my friend. He's just kind of wild, right? But like, but when it comes to business, it's like everything is an investment. Right. So I'm investing time and money into almost every person or relationship inside of there.
Totally.
And so that can only go on for so long before you want to pull your investment back out.
Right.
And when you bet on likable people, it generally works.
Yeah.
So
it's so true. It's so true. And it just, you would, especially in our world, like it's a small room, right? Our studio is a small space and you're usually having to work with people very intimately. You're very close with people. You're very this, you're very that. And you don't want someone with an attitude or ego or whatever to like bring down the vibes.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
It's not fun at all.
Makes it so not fun.
And so the show that I was on, if anyone hasn't heard this, it was a compressed show, right? So like we practiced for like 3 days. I think the full ensemble practiced for like 5 days. I came in on the 3rd day and then we had like a dress rehearsal and bam, right?
Gotcha.
5 shows, 2 days or 3 days, and then it was over. And so it would have destroyed that show if someone was a dick.
Oh yeah.
Right, because it's like, because you only have a short period of time. No one can recover during that, right?
Right.
So, but we were back there like...
You don't really have time to really get to know someone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, well, he's this way because of this. Give him a break.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have time for that.
He's going through something.
Right, which is valid, right? But you won't have time to get to understand that about somebody.
Right, or care. Because if you don't know them and they're going through something, you're like, okay, so am I.
Leave it out of the room. Crying to your pillow.
Exactly. But when they're fun, it's like, yeah, this guy's fun. Like I'll tell you a couple of things off camera because but there was a couple of guys that they just cracked me up, right? Because half of the people are gay. Right. And so when I come into the room, right, I mean, I'm a white guy, 6'7", right? And I've made some money, so everyone thinks I'm like this conservative, I don't even know, religious nutcase. And so, but like my very first thing I do all the time in those situations, I make friends with the gay guys. Like the second I walk in there, right? Here's my normal joke I do with them, right? I start talking to them, blah, 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 and then I'll ask them how long they've been married to their wife or where their wives are, right? And I'll be like, I'm gay. And I'm like, oh, I didn't want to assume. Or something like that, right? And they just like, and they kind of think I'm funny, right? Then I kind of get in,
right?
And then that's how I kind of make friends with all of them,
right?
And so, but like these guys, but gays are like super sassy and they're funny as hell, right? If you get them going. But every time I go to a beach, like in California, I look for the freaking whatever flag they're flying, and I'm like, let's go hang out with those dudes. There'll be alcohol and Madonna playing,
and good music generally. Yeah.
Oh, great music!
Great music. Yes.
In fact, we went down there during COVID, right? Down to San Diego.
Okay.
And my kids were playing on the beach. And when Michelle came back, I was hanging out with like dudes with nothing but freaking Speedos on, right? I'm over there taking shots with them. She was like, where the hell? She like finally realized I was like right over here. I'm like, come on over here, be my friends. It's like Seth and all these guys.
That's awesome.
It's fun. I love those guys.
That's awesome.
So, all right, tell me about the collective.
Okay, yeah. The collective is...
Promote the collective.
The collective is a dance convention that my best friend and I started. And we have both been involved in the industry for a really long time and have done really cool things. We've done different things though. So she grew up more in the ballet world, Broadway, touring the world, touring national tours, Broadway tours, all these things. And I've done more of the West Coast, more like TV, film, commercial shows out here. And so we met in Las Vegas doing another, it was a Broadway show in Las Vegas called Marilyn the Musical. And it didn't last very long, but we became besties. Mm-hmm. And
how long ago was that?
That was 8 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It was actually a really interesting time in my life because I just found out that I was going to be getting divorced. Mm-hmm. And I had asked myself, and I was having the best time with this group of people. And it was like this show that it meant a lot to me. And I kind of asked myself, like, would I still be making this decision about my relationship if I didn't have this group of people around me? Like, is this why? Because I feel so supported and I feel so loved and I'm like, feeling talented. And, I really felt so great in the show. It had really lifted my self-esteem. And I asked myself that, like, is that something that would change my mind? And I was like, no, it shouldn't. And 2 weeks later, we found out the show was closing. And so it was just this like kind of insane turn of events that ended up where the show closed a lot. I mean, it was supposed to be a 2-year contract and ended up closing less than 2 months later from when we started. But Alyssa and I became best friends. And so we have been in each other's lives for a long time, so obviously in just normal life. So Alyssa came to me and she was just like, I really want to do this dance competition convention with you. I think that we both have different things we can bring to the table. We've both experienced different things. And I think this is something we really need to think about. And so we kind of dove in and we both just felt like there is something missing from the dance world right now because there are 1,000,001 dance conventions already. So why start another one? And honestly, it's because I really feel like there's something missing. We both felt like there was something missing, which is everything is so competitive right now. Everything. And it's really amped up since I was a kid. Not that I was a big competition kid, but Alyssa was. So she's a little bit more familiar with all that. Yeah. My mom was not into the competitions. We tried it for a little bit and she just didn't care about the perfect piece, making it look perfect. She cared about how we were feeling in it, which has blessed me immensely. But didn't make for a great competition because our routines were more messy than others, if that makes sense. So anyway, we just decided, things have changed a lot though since I was a kid. And now everything is crazy competitive. People are traveling all over the country to see the teachers and whatever. And, they're always, every class is almost like a competition in itself where they're competing for a scholarship. They're competing for attention. They're competing for this. And we decided we need to do something where it's the opposite, where it's really not about being competitive at all. In fact, it's about just being a good human and remembering why you love to dance. And it's not to say that those are a problem. It's important as a dancer to learn how to deal with rejection, to learn how to stand out, to learn how to, have that competitive edge. That is very important. Those are all important skills to have. I just feel like no one's talking about the other side, about how do you pour into yourself? How do you look for not that external validation all of the time? And I can't remember who said it, but someone said, the person you are most qualified to help is the person you used to be. And that is what I feel like I'm doing now. I feel like dance can either be the most wonderful, beautiful, greatest thing for your confidence, for develop your personality, all these things, or it can be the absolute most tragic worst thing. And it's because we're constantly trained to let our guard down, be super vulnerable, but then wait for that external validation. It's almost like Pavlovian, I really feel like, where it's like, get really vulnerable, be okay with it, but then I'm going to tell you if I liked that or not. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it's like, I constantly was performing for outside sources. You go to an audition, you're waiting for them to tell you whether you got the job or not. You go perform in front of an audience, you wait for them to clap. And they're just wasn't enough for me. And I'm sure that people tried to do it. I'm sure my mom was like, told me I was beautiful and that she loved me. Right.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, there was not enough where I learned how to give that to myself. And that doesn't stay in the studio. And that doesn't stay on stage. You know, that follows you. And that followed me for a long time. I feel like I'm still like kind of shaking some of that off.
Yeah.
And I really want to help young dancers understand that although that is a part of our world, that doesn't have to define you in it. You get to choose who you are in it. So it's been a really amazing, organically growing experience. It's like constantly evolving and shaping. But what stayed really constant is how we feel about these young dancers coming up and wanting them to feel as beautiful and as confident as we see them, right? And helping them understand that the only way they're going to feel that way is if they feel that about themselves. And to remember that regardless of whether you get the job or not, that doesn't make or break you. And the little wins along the way are actually the things that are the most important, not, you know, looking 20 years down the future. It's about finding those little moments every day to help you feel more confident. It's making your bed in the morning. It's like all those little compound things that make you go, oh, I did that.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, unless someone's talking, like kind of pouring that into you and we're talking about it, I feel like it just leaves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's interesting. There's very many anticlimactic things that happen in people's lives. And I think it really can disappoint and depress certain people, right? For example, I know someone who he wants to be a speaker and he speaks all the time. I feel like his main goal is basically to be that big main speaker in the world, blah, 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 blah. And right. I just have this thing where I'm like, I feel like that person's going to come off stage one time, look at his life and go, I have nothing.
Right.
I sacrificed so much shit for this one thing. It's not going to pop like it's supposed to.
Right.
And I think, and that happens all the time. You know, quite frankly, when my net worth actually went over $1 million for the first time, I thought that was this huge thing, right? And I was like, I did the math, you know, I keep a personal financial statement. I've done it since I was like 21, right? Mm-hmm. And it just crested one time. And I was like, oh, like I'm actually a millionaire, you know? And I remember thinking, I'm like, okay. And I literally went home and told Michelle, and she was like, cool. Did you get the milk? And it was like, oh shit, like you don't care. And I'm like, do I actually care? And like, it was like this really defining characteristic moment for me where I was like, oh, it is just money.
Right.
It's just numbers. Right. And like,
right.
And ever since then, I just kind of treated it that way. Right. I just siloed it off. And it was probably the most anticlimactic moment of my life. Because when you're a kid, you're like, shit, when I'm a millionaire,
right.
Blah, 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 blah.
Totally.
You know, obviously a millionaire is way different than it used to be in the 90s. I was doper back then.
I still think it's pretty cool.
Still pretty cool.
Still pretty cool.
You know what I'm saying, right? It's like, oh, okay.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like when you're focused on those little wins, you just have so much more joy throughout your life in general.
Yeah.
And you're focused on the things that are, oh, that happened today. Or, you know, and training yourself to look for those. Because again, unless you're building that skill set, why would you know to look those things, right? Isn't that your ARS, your reticular activating systems? Is that what it is?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I think so.
Where you start thinking about it and then you start seeing more of it.
Yeah.
And that is something that we're talking about a lot at the collective, where it's like, you need to be the one to look for the good things, to remember that you are enough, to remember that whatever you decide to share on stage, whether it was perfect or not, that's what happened. So be there, be present, enjoy it. And presence is always better than perfection every time. Yeah. Every time.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And it also needs to be taught, you know,
totally.
Or you have to learn it the hard way. It's one or the other, right? So if you can teach
the only way I learn actually is the hard way.
I'm kind of the same, honestly, right? Like, it's like, that's why, like, I was talking to one of my friends about investing, right? Mm-hmm. And he was telling me, how do you decide what you're going to put money in? And we're not talking like stock investing. We're talking like venture capital, like small business stuff. Right?
I definitely know all about this. So
right.
Sure.
Many people do, I'm sure. And I'm like, let me paint this picture for you, right? let me show you what the boardroom looks like. Okay. So we get into a boardroom. There's 5 of us guys are going to invest in a deal, right? We look at 10 deals and we go, okay, which one of these are viable, right? So you're going to take 3 of them right off the top, right? The other 7 you're just going to trash, right? Because they don't have viability, okay? Based on our experience, right? That's why we're in the room.
Right.
Then you look at those 3 and you go, okay, which one of these is going to be fun? And then they go, this one will be way funner than this one, right? And if one makes 10 times as much money, you'll go for the one that makes money, right? Sure. But if they're all equal, you're going to go, which one of these is fun? Yeah. And then and then we stand on the edge of a cliff and we take our money and we throw it off of it and hope to hell it comes up. And he was like, that's your process? And I'm like, pretty much. I'm like, no one can guess the future. I have no idea.
Right.
If you bring me Google right now that doesn't exist, I don't know. The name seems weird.
Right.
I can get caught up in all sorts of crap on this.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it's like, okay, well, what are we really doing? We're making an educated guess and then we're just doing it.
Yeah.
When I say throwing it off a cliff, I'm just like, boom, okay, it's done. Let's see if it works.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like
next.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like, that's pretty much investing 101, and the reason why I was talking to my friend about it, because he is an overanalyzer up to the wazoo. And I'm like, you cannot overanalyze this. You'll just paralyze yourself.
Right.
You'll paralyze yourself with analysis.
Right. Paralysis analysis.
Which, by the way, people do it all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
They do it in relationships. They do it with their kids. They do it with their parents. They do it with their friends. They do it at work.
Yeah.
Hell, they do it in the car.
Yeah.
You ever seen someone come up to a roundabout? Get in there.
I will say, I have struggled with a lot of things in my life. That has not usually been one of the things I struggle with.
Good. It's probably why you found some good success.
This is probably why I've learned a lot. That's probably why I've learned a lot. Yes, for sure.
And, to kind of give advice like to the general public, right? It's like, in your 20s, go make some mistakes.
Oh my gosh.
I say this to my kids all the time. I'm like, guys, I want you to make mistakes. I want you to get bruised. Right. I don't want you to get a scar.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a big difference. Bruise is heal. Totally. But you can't experience the good in life unless you understand the bad.
I could not agree with you more. Yes, and it's interesting too. You kind of said something about it earlier where it's like, if we knew exactly what was going to happen, what life would, it was about a business thing, but to think about like where I thought my life would be, or even sometimes right now, I just had a moment if this is a really honest moment, I don't know if I'm going to keep it in or not, but so me and my ex-husband, we have 2 kids and we get along amazingly well. I feel like not always, I feel like every 5 to 6 months we have a screaming fight. Oh. Besides that, we get along really well and we've worked really hard for that relationship to be able to have that. Yeah. He's also remarried now and they have a beautiful new baby and I feel the same way about her. She's absolutely amazing. And, that was a little bit of a process, but I've always wanted to get along with my ex's person. Right. Yeah. So that wasn't a difficult thing for me.
Plus it's a stepmom to your kid.
It's a stepmom. Sorry. I want her to be wonderful. I want their relationship to be wonderful. Yes. All of those things. But I did have this moment the other day, recently, where I was just kind of looking at them and I had a lot of envy. And I had this feeling of how come he gets that? How come he has that? I wasn't the one that necessarily blew our life up. And now I have to sit here at our daughter's dance recital while you guys are all sitting there with your little cute family. That's perfect, right? And I obviously know it's not perfect, and I want nothing less for them. But I do have those moments every once in a while where I'm like, that's not fair. Or
that's a fair thought to have.
It is.
It doesn't take away from them at all.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think about other things in my life that I thought I really wanted, and how grateful I am. And even he and I's relationship. If you would have asked me when we got married, obviously I'd be like, forever, please, forever, forever. Yeah. And who I am now and what I've grown through, I wouldn't trade that for the world. I just wouldn't. Obviously we talk about, would we go back and change that? That's not one of the things I would change because I love who I keep becoming more of. And that goes for every experience I've had since then. And it's something that's been interesting. It's a little bit of a pivot, but it's been an interesting thing dating with kids because my parents didn't really do that. My mom and stepdad got married pretty quickly after my parents got divorced. And then my dad and stepmom got married when I was about 11. And I think he was single for like, 4 or 5, 6 years. Yeah. 5 years. But I didn't ever really see him date. Like he did that, whatever. And not that my kids see me date, but it has been an interesting thing where I feel like what a cool way to teach my kids about what they deserve or what it's like to look for a partner. Because sometimes I feel like you don't always get that. And now that they see something that's, you know, stable-ish, right? They have the little family. It's not perfect. Like, you know, it's not me and their dad, but it's their own family. And they get to see that and hopefully learn other things from me. And, because I've thought good and bad things about that. It's been something where I've been like, I can't believe that I don't get to give them something really stable or to show them what that's like or whatever. But I think there's almost just as much value to show them me going through that experience, and not in like an irresponsible way. Like I have rules for myself about who gets to meet my kids or whatever. It's not like I'm like, come around. But yeah, it is interesting to think like if I would have been able to just like, if you were to go with the one decision you made initially, right? Yeah. About anything, business, life, relationships, your favorite color, like to feel stuck in that or to feel like you can't evolve out of that, that would have been like looking back, I'm sure it would feel suffocating, right? And that's how I feel as think it's such a beautiful thing to become just a little bit more of who I am authentically every single day.
Well, and everyone's going to evolve too, right?
Right.
And so like with Michelle and I, right, we've been married 20 years, right? 21 years in June, right? And we've fallen in love at least twice, if not 3 times, right? Because we've fallen in love with different versions of ourselves, right? We're similar to who we were when we got married. We're not like this massive departure, right? But at the same time, if you really want to stack it up, we're wildly different. I have 3 kids. Right. She has 3 kids. When we got married, we did not have 3 kids. Right. You know what I mean, right? I've had different business experiences. I've had different friendships. We've blown friendships up that have been our fault. And we've had friendships blow up that were not our fault or partially or whatever, right? Sure. It's like you go through all these different things. I've watched her be a mom. I've gained so much love and respect for her for doing that, right? Right. But there's a million times along the way that this could have pivoted away from each other. Totally. You know, we've just chosen to always pivot back.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big deal.
Unless it is a big deal.
Listen, let me tell you something. It's a really big deal. It's crazy. That's another thing too. This is also a little bit of a pivot, but something I was thinking about is being a dancer and being a professional at being vulnerable. I feel like I kind of always was that way. I was always kind of like emotional. Shocking. Are you shocked?
Blown away.
But I definitely was, and dancing definitely gave me an outlet, right? Where I could I could feel my feelings or whatever. Yeah. And, oh shit, I'm forgetting why I brought this up.
It happens to me all the time.
Oh, okay. I remember. Being vulnerable was something I was just kind of good at. And I just assumed everyone else was also good at it. Yeah. Everyone else was always like kind of just wearing their heart on their sleeve and was always being really honest and was just, showing who they really were. And that has been something that's been interesting to evolve from, to have to understand that not everyone is that way and not everyone is as willing to share who they really are as easily as I am. And sometimes that's totally bit me in the ass. But again, that's something about myself I hope never, ever, ever changes. That's something that I won't let change. I won't let an experience change that. I won't let a person change that. Nothing where I feel like I have to be super hard or guarded. Even if I have moments where I'm like, okay, bye everyone. Yeah. Peace. I think I've always been able to come back and be like, it's okay. Yeah. It's not that. Here's all my me things.
Yeah. That's a really good personality trait actually, because I think in the single world, which I'm an observer of.
Yes, you are.
I
questions are always my favorite. Always. I always get a little nervous when your Marcos pull up because I'm like, what's he gonna ask me now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all observation, right? It's just like, why does this happen? Or why does this happen? But I look at people and it's like, you have to be vulnerable to date. You do. And you have to, and in the moment, right? You can't have these massive walls up. You'll never get into a relationship. Right. But when you get into a bad relationship, no matter what the reason is, right? I think it would be very tempting to throw those walls up so hard. Right. Like one of the things, and I lightly tease people about this, right? But I should tease them harder. Am I one of them? No, I don't think so. No, because I don't think you do this. But like people do this bullshit where they go like, I'm not doing something for 1 year or 6 months. And it's like, why? You know what I mean? And they're like, well, I'm just, and it's like, why are you putting a time frame on this? Why don't you go, I'm hurt right now and I'm going to take some time for myself. Yeah. Because that could be 4 minutes or it could be 10 days. It's rarely 6 months. Right. Because then people like say that, right? Like one of the examples is like, I'm not having sex with anyone for 6 months. Right. And I'm like, and I'm definitely thinking about one person and he's a guy in my life that does this. And I'm like, okay. And then like 2 months later, they're having sex with somebody. Right. And then it's like, so you just lied to yourself. Right. And it's creating this like complex web inside of you instead of just being very actual vulnerable and honest in the moment. Just be like, so could I have a relationship? I need a break. Right. Like, okay, cool. And then people can kind of support you around that. Sure. Does that make sense? Totally. Yeah. And I've been through moments of that and things where it's like, okay, maybe having different standards for myself. That doesn't necessarily change something, doesn't draw like a hard line in the sand. Yeah. Or I try not to, because again, I think I've lived enough life where I don't think I can count on anything to be like, that sounds really cynical. I don't want to ever be like, this is what's going to happen. And I know it's going to happen. I have no idea. If I've learned anything in my life, it's that I have no idea really where life can go, which is beautiful if you let it be. It can also be absolutely terrifying if you want it to be. But if you focus on the good, generally it can be very beautiful. And I feel like, well, maybe the beauty of it is that it is terrifying. I think that's a part of it. 100%. And I think that rather than focusing on, again, it's almost like what I was talking about with the collective, rather than focusing on end goals, you're focusing on the little things here and there. You're focusing on the little wins. Like for me in the dating world, if I handled a situation better than I would have before, or if I held myself to go, I actually didn't like that, I'm going to listen to myself about that instead of ignoring it or seeing the best in someone. That right there is very important, because it's like, instead of building walls or your ego or whatever the hell, boundaries is the word I freaking hate. Just deal with stuff in real time. Right. If someone does something you don't like, you don't need to build a rule around them to control them. Right. So you'd be like, hey, I didn't really love that behavior. Why'd you do that? Right. Or just observe it, or at least be aware of it for me. Cause sometimes like it's not even a conversation I need to have with that person. I guess I always think about it. I'm in a relationship, right? So if it's something I don't like, I have to talk about it, or it'll corrode us. Yeah. And I will say that that's definitely the type of person I am. I've almost had to pull back from that a bit. Yeah. Even being in a relationship, well, maybe that's a bad example, but I think that it was almost like I was too in someone's face. I was too like, no, we need to talk about it right now. Yeah. When there's safety in a relationship, or there should feel like there's safety in a relationship where you can go, okay, it's okay if we don't talk about this right now. I know we're going to be there tomorrow to talk about it. Yeah. And we are talking about it. It's just we are going to talk about it. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. And so for me, it's been a lot more like taking things and being a little bit more internal and dealing with things, or being observant and being aware of how it's making me feel, and then moving according to that. And whether that's giving someone a moment to have a conversation about that, or if it's like, no, I didn't like that, and now I'm exiting. And it's been interesting for sure. I'll tell you something I very rarely have is a hard conversation. Is that because their conversations are just not hard for you? No, because I just deal with stuff before they become big. Oh, I see. Right. Mm-hmm. And like I've employed a lot of people, right? And I manage them at some level, right? I used to manage a lot more than I do now. But like I would never let something fester before it became a big thing. So then we have to quote unquote have a hard conversation about it, right? It's more like, hey, what's going on with this? You know, I'm just always, I mean, you know my personality, right? It's just like, it's always in your face a little bit.
Right.
It's not, I don't think it's like overbearing all the time. It could be.
Sure.
But like, it's like, no, what's going on with this? I want to talk about this now. You know what I mean? It's like, then I never have these moments where it's like, okay, I've got to prep for a hard conversation. I've even had people say to me like, Mark, I need to have a hard conversation with you. I'm like, cool, go. Oh, right now? Like, yeah, you brought it up. And then boom, we're into it. I'm like, no, that's not how it happened. This is what I think, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, wasn't that hard of a conversation, was
Isn't communication the craziest thing? Like, honestly, it is so wild how if we were all just able to, or when you're looking at something from the outside or, you know, and you're like, this is all this is, guys. But there's so much sometimes that can get like messy and icky and because of different perspectives or different things. And so when you go to communicate, there's still like, it's wild. It's wild that it can be something that can be a complete, most conflicts could be completely avoided just with the proper communication. But that,
or even though just the willingness to communicate.
Right.
Like how many people do you know are just like, well, you know, my partner this, and it's just like, oh my God, just go deal with it.
Right.
Like you were going to make
we are
this
that way
so
though,
big.
in general. I feel like you and I both have that in common where, and again, not everyone is that way. Not everyone is that comfortable with
like, you know, our buddy Nick Howland, right? Like every now and again, I'll freaking argue with him like you would not believe. There are people who think that we have blown our friendship up. Oh, really? And we flip a switch where I'm like, whatever, you're a dumbass. And he's like, you're a dumbass. I'm like, yeah. Anyway,
tomorrow, what do we have for dinner tonight?
It doesn't even get to the dumbass point, honestly. It's just kind of like,
oh,
you know what I mean?
I feel like I've heard it get to the dumbass point once or twice.
Oh, maybe you have. Maybe you have. I mean,
just teasing.
Well,
no, you guys, it's a great example of being able to just, cause I've definitely seen you have differences of opinions and that you can have that and still be able to be like, okay, it's so important. It's so important. It's so important.
I love the guy. I understand him. And he understands me. He actually said something last year sometime. We had a bunch of, I think it was people or guys around, right? Mm-hmm. And they said something to him and he goes, I know exactly where I sit with all my friends. And I was like, ooh. And I started thinking, I'm like, do I know where I sit with all my friends? And I'm like, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I could be surprised. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Or someone could be harboring something that they, whatever. Right. But like most of the time, I feel like I know where I sit with you. I mean, almost all of my friends, I'm like, yeah, I pretty much know where I sit. And then after that conversation, I actually prodded a few times with people. Right. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I think they would say. You know what I mean? And then like, it was like this beautiful thing to me where I was like, yeah, Nick knows, I know.
Right.
And there's a lot of confidence in that.
Yeah. And
so then when we do have conflict, you know, like, you know, more like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? Then we kind of get into it. I'm like, oh, that's your perspective, blah, blah. In fact, Nick and I have kind of been talking about politics around people, right? And they hate it. And I'm like, and it was funny because Michelle thought I was upset with Nick this week, actually. It'll be funny when he listens to this. And I'm like, I'm not really upset with him. I'm actually upset with the general public, right? And so I'm just not engaging him on this for a minute. And then I talked to him about it the next day, and I was just like,
"You're like literally 1 minute. I'll talk about you about tomorrow."
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, I'll just deal with it when he's not he's not hot. He's like passionate.
Sure.
I'll tell you what it is. It'll be funny. I think anyone that opposes Doge is an absolute moron, right?
Right.
And any aspect of it, right? And so he brought this thing up about the National Park Service. He's like, they've cut 1,000 people from the National Park Service. I think that's bullshit. And I'm like, okay, I can't talk to you right now about this. And then the next day I was like, Nick, because he put it in a group chat with a couple guys, right? And everyone, like, they kind of went after, and I didn't go after him, but they were just kind of like, don't you get it? We're going bankrupt as a country, right? Like, I don't give a shit if they cut they need to cut all sorts of stuff. And if you think this is the first, there's gonna be a bazillion things in there, right? And I just said to him, I'm like, Nick, no one's going to care about cutting stuff from the national park. I know that you think those programs are good. We are sending billions of money overseas for all sorts of ridiculous shit, you know? But then he's like, yeah, I understand that. And then we have like a very constructive conversation about it where neither of us are, we'll call it passionate, right? We're not being passionate in the moment. Right. And then all the understanding hits and then boom, we just keep moving. Right. But I know him and he knows me. He knows when to poke me. He knows when he's poking me. Well, and I know when he's poking me. Right. Sure. And then sometimes sometimes you got to give into that. Yeah.
Sometimes it feels good.
Boof, which I did last week, I think, over something, you know what I mean? In fact, Haley, one time we got in an argument over Ariel. right? The new live action movie, right? As you see, I got her tattooed on me now just to prove a point.
Hello.
But like honestly, I was
not
like
petty, okay?
I'm not. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm petty. I'm secretly petty.
Oh, I know. Tom Petty of the pettiness. I get it. You are definitely that. I've seen it.
And I like that about myself.
Me too.
But you know, like we get this whole argument, and like literally when they leave, Haley was like, she thought we blew our relationship up, right? She's in the car like giving it to him, right? What are you doing? You need to. He's like, Mark will be fine. You know what I mean? And like the next day, I was like, what do you mean? Because his whole thing was like black, you know, the new black Ariel is like this inclusive blah 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 thing. And my point was, I want hot Ariel. She was my freaking the Disney princess I thought was hot when I was young. And now that you want the one that you are familiar with. Yeah, yes. The one that I grew up with. That makes sense. That was it. I mean, that's fine. Yes, Ariel can be black. Yes, it doesn't matter. All that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, she was. She's a beautiful girl, whatever. You know what I mean?
Actually, I'm trying to think if I actually have seen the new one. I don't know if I even have.
Well, we'll have to talk about this anyway. Because Nick ends up pulling this hard line about something else on there. I'm like, dude. But like, if you understand me and him, right, just watch. Right? I mean, we're not going to blow our friendship up over this. Right. Trust me. There's a bazillion things we could have, and we're just not.
Totally.
And so, but I love it. I love the relationship that I have in them.
Yes. I think that's really important to have those types of relationships where you can have that level of honesty and just be who you are and again, we were talking about this at the beginning where you don't have to worry about, well, if I say this, is it going to make them feel this way?
Well, and a lot of my friends, right, even like you, right, it's like, if you blow up at me, okay, over something, I'll be like, oh, Kelly's having a bad day. I'll let her freaking sit on this for a minute. And then I'd hit you back in a couple of days and be like, you over that? You still being a bitch or whatever? I say whatever to you, right? And you're like, yeah, it pissed me off that you said that. And it's like, and we'd either come to an understanding or we wouldn't. Right. But when you get in those like moments where things blow up, because I feel like I've built relationships with people where it's like, and even me, right? If I just am like off, right? I'm pissed off about something or whatever. And you're like, oh, we'll let Mark have a week before I re-engage him, right? I feel like I've earned that, whatever you want to call it, respect or stature with all of my friends. Where it's like, because I treat people pretty good most of the time, I think, right? We're
not going to just be like, okay, F you and...
Yeah, one instance, he's gone. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, something's going crazy with him. He's gone. And it would be. That's the thing too. If I blow up at you, especially you, something outside has gone crazy because there's no reason for me to be mad at you about anything. Yeah.
We've done some cool things together.
I agree.
We've been some like cool places.
Like, Brazil. I thought the freaking Iguazu Falls is like...
That was, I think, maybe my favorite place I've ever been. I love Iguazu Falls.
Beautiful.
I remember seeing videos and photos from when we were on the boat, like on the like speedboat on the river underneath the waterfalls. And I don't think I've ever seen my face smile that big. Like, oh, really? Something about the energy of the water, and I just like love being on the water in general. Oh, and then the hotel was pink, and the sangria was amazing. Yeah. It was just like,
oh, that sangria is the best I've ever had. I mean, we had 9 pictures of it by the time everyone showed up.
It was so good.
That might be, it's got to be a top 5 most beautiful place I've been.
It is in my top 5. Absolutely. It honestly might be top 3 for me only because of the, like, I can't even explain it. The energy and everything I felt there.
Well, remember like being like in that overlook area in front of the hotel, and we were like doing all the making out with your partner videos and stuff. That was fun.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
It was so fun. And I remember there was one morning was actually a little bit anticlimactic, not going to lie. There was one morning because I wanted to see the sunrise over the falls. Yeah. And so I left the guy I was dating at the time. He wasn't going fast enough. I literally start running, trucking it because I'm like, we're going to miss it. And I run all the way to like, there's this path that takes you all the way, and they built out this like walkway. So you're basically like in the middle of these falls. But because of where they were, you couldn't really see the sun. So it was like not what I thought it would be. Yeah. But that was this beautiful moment where I just got to like be there in like the stillness of the morning, and it was still so beautiful, and just the energy of the water. I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, that was so fun. Rio was fun.
Rio was way fun.
We slept on an RV together.
Oh, that was fun. I forgot about that. I didn't really forget about that, but yeah, you and I. So that
we spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, that was funny too, because when Mel was like biking, everyone was like, "Oh, you gonna bike with Mel?" I was like, "No." I mean, he's doing like 100 miles a day or whatever, right? Me and you are like in the RV just chilling, making oatmeal for him or whatever. Like, hey, Mel called. His thing broke. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was so fun. The AC, it was hot.
Dude, plus remember the first night we like go to that freaking EDM concert with Dan Blankenship. I'm like, what are we doing?
I forgot.
We got up at like 2:00. We went down to like 2:00 in the morning. We had to walk 1.5 miles back to our RV because they shut the gates.
Oh my gosh. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was wild.
I remember talking to Mel. I was like, dude, are you cool with doing this? Like, aren't you tired?
Things shifted after that. I think he was like, we gotta be more careful about how we move forward with this.
Yeah, so I figured the next day,
a little bit more of a gatekeeper after that.
I think he had a couple tears on the ride the next day.
Yeah, it was
a rough day.
Out of the norm for sure. But
that was fun.
That was really fun. Where we just got to sit and talk. That was so badass. Driving that thing.
I agree.
You didn't even have to drive it. Mm-mm. Were you impressed?
I wasn't even expecting to.
You were like, absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, I would have if you asked me to, right? I wouldn't have done it as good as you.
Offer.
Like, did I offer?
I don't know.
I doubt I did.
No.
Well, you independent ladies out there. If I start saying, hey, let me drive, he's like, because you're a guy.
I actually loved that. I loved being on an RV. I've always wanted one. I remember my dad when I had to have been like 8 or 9. He had inherited or got for super, super cheap. I don't even know how it happened, but all of a sudden there's this like busted camper next to our house. And I wanted it to be my home so badly. I remember taking a poster and like putting it above where the bunk is on top and wanting it to be that. And then nothing happened with it.
Dude, I told Michelle, I was like, so that first day, like the next morning, right? Like I can't get up. I'm like, oh shit. And, Mel's getting his freaking like, spandex on all this shit, right? He's getting ready to go. And you were like pumping the water and unplugging the thing, cleaning this, moving this, whatever, all this stuff. And I was like, and then I remember in the thing, you were telling me like how much you love it. And I was like, that's cool. So when I talked to Michelle, I was like, no, you should see Kelli down here. She freaking loves this shit. She's all over this thing. And I'm like, I am not a car guy.
Oh, well.
See, everyone always assumes.
I'm also not a car guy.
Well, but you know what I mean? Like if my car starts making a noise, it's at the dealership. I'm not even opening it up. We're
not tinkering.
Yeah, I'm not. Exactly. Like, I'm going to mess this thing. I could change oil. Don't get me wrong. My dad taught me some of those things, right? But like, I don't do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
And so like to watch you kind of like own it.
Thank you.
It was cool.
It was a really cool experience. I mean, obviously at the time too, it was a big deal for me to be there and supporting Mel in that. But there was something really special about it for myself too. I mean, I would drive this RV 5 miles, park it, wait for him to ride past, give me like the 5 more miles or whatever, sign he gave me, or he'd stop and get some water or food. And I'd drive 5 more miles and I park and I drive 5 more. I mean, we did that all day. And so I had a lot of time with myself. Yeah. And it was, I'm sure it was not as introspective as maybe his experience was, but it definitely gave me a lot of time to like sit in some things and to feel like,
because he was,
I can do this.
8 hours a day he was on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least generally, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a lot of time.
It's a lot, and generally I was by myself, and I mean it was really cool, and there's a lot about that experience I still treasure. Yeah. It was very cool.
Well, I was like smack in the middle of it, right? Wasn't that when I?
Yeah, I think so.
So we were in
Texas. Do you remember? I was gonna say if you were in Texas, yes, and it was after. Oh yeah, because you came for the begin. Austin. We left Austin together.
Yeah. We left Austin, and I think we ended up in Houston when I left, right? Some other guy.
Yeah, I'm sure we were in Texas for another 40 days. It was so long in Texas.
Is freaking what, a fourth nuts. Of it probably, right? Like actual distance?
I think it was longer. I genuinely think it might have been longer. Like
a third of it?
Because he did it it was at least a third, because I think it took 10 days to get through Texas, and it only took him 28 to finish the whole country.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, El Paso to freaking Galveston is a long way. It
was insane. But what was really cool, too, was obviously, like, getting to the end. And I had all the kids out there with us to finish. And he and his daughter ended up flying back. And he had offered to, fly us back as well. But I was like, no, I want to take this moment back with the kids. And so me and my 2 little ones rode basically almost the whole way back without Mel there. And that was also a really very special part of that journey for me as well, where it really was me on my own, owning that, like the space of it all. And, you know, showing my kids that I could do that in a way. And people were not happy about it. My mom was not happy about it. My ex-husband was not happy about it. They were like,
oh, you were driving the RV by yourself?
Yeah. About me coming back by ourselves. Oh, livid. My mom was like so mad at me. She was mad at me. She was mad at Mike. She was mad at Mel, everyone. She was mad at everybody for letting this happen. She just felt like it was really unsafe. And I actually understand it to a point, right? Especially if you hadn't been on that journey. So if you hadn't seen me own it the way that you had. And then also if you haven't really been in the camping sites, I'm sure it can be a little bit like scary to think about where we're parking every night and if it's safe and stuff. Exactly. When in reality, it's been some of the safest places that I could ever stay. It was just
mostly old people in there, right?
Mostly old people. This is like their life. They're so friendly, too friendly, honestly. Like I'm not you, right? Like I'm like, I'd rather read a book than meet a new person generally. And so sometimes I just be like, can I just have my space?
So one of the nights I got out of the RV to call Michelle, right? Kind of walk around. And it was kind of funny because like, I don't know, 2 minutes into it, I'm like, I got to pee really bad.
Right.
So I keep on trying to like go places to pee and people are like, hey, what's up, man? And I was like, hey, what's up? And I have to walk into like 50 feet. And I'm like, shit. So I had to like actually walk all the way back out of the park and basically find a tree somewhere. But
Yeah. But I had a blast doing that. There was like, we stopped at and it actually took a little bit longer because there was a little bit of like RV trouble.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was a little dramatic for a second, but we got through it. Like we stopped at a water park and I had this incredible moment with my daughter Teddy there where I just saw her it helped bring these cool moments out. You know what I mean? Where if we had just been home though, they wouldn't have happened. Like I wouldn't have seen her fight for this grit that I saw come out of her at the water park. And I'll never forget that moment. It was so important to me. And seeing Croy help her and help me throughout, they're just, it was an amazing experience. And I'm very grateful for it.
Good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But my favorite was obviously when you were there.
Of course, I'm sure it was. But the whole thing. Actually, the funniest thing of that trip that people were laughing at is like, I slept with like your dog like every night.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And I'm allergic to dogs. People like, you slept with a dog?
Well, they're hypoallergenic.
And I'm like, right. I'm still allergic to them.
Are you?
Yeah, because it's touching them and then touching my eye or anything like that. It has nothing to do with their shedding or hair or anything.
What does it have to do with then?
I'm allergic to the actual, I guess, dander that are on dogs. So. Sounds
fake.
Yeah. I was on
Are you sure it's just like touching anything and touching your eye? That sounds like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're good. Hey, it's not like I want this. It's like, dude, when I was a kid, I had hay fever like you wouldn't believe, right? Yeah. Like just crazy. So my mom takes me to a doctor to do that. Like, have you ever seen the prick test they used to do on people's backs? Mm-mm. They'd make a huge grid. It was like 12 squares over and like 10 down. It was a lot. And they prick you with like every single thing. So it's like all the, the trees and the grasses, and then they do animals at the end. I think there's like 60 spaces or something like that on there, right? I'm allergic to 59 out of 60 things. Really? And half of them I was severely allergic to. So my whole back like just lit up with little like bumps, right? And they went away after a couple of days, right? But like the doctor's like, yeah, you're pretty much allergic to everything. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So then like I had an inhaler for a minute that was like, it wasn't an asthma thing, but it was like a, I don't know, hay fever thing. I don't know. But then I grew out of it. Right. So
interesting.
So like, if a dog comes in here, I touch a dog, it's like no big deal. Right. Like it doesn't like instantly give me hives or anything, but it is because I touch my eyes a lot and my mouth and stuff like that. It's just like I don't know if it's a tick or whatever. Right. And like, as soon as I touch a dog and touch my eye, it just blows up.
Really?
So yeah, I was on Benadryl the whole time I was there.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I knew this.
Yeah. It's
because Simba has literally no personal space. He doesn't understand.
Well, that's boundaries. The thing. I'd like sleep and I'd wake up and the dog would be like right here. And I'm like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? But like, as soon as I knew there's a dog, I don't even tell people I'm taking it. Oh, okay. I've got, I don't know, 50 pills.
Sorry about that.
Bag. It doesn't matter. No, I'm saying it's fine.
You're like, this is one of those things I need to talk to you about.
If it was a thing, I would have been like, hey, Kelly, you got to put your dog in your room, not mine,
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I'm trying to think what else we've done together. Anything worth noting?
Well, I was even thinking about it on the way down. I would have had some stuff listed in my head. I don't know, just had fun. I picked you up from, or you picked me up from I went to a club one night in Salt Lake with my friends, and you went to the High School Musical reunion tour.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, oh, we should probably go over there. And it was so funny because I saw the video of it later, and I was like, oh shit, that was like,
it was a big deal.
Well, it was like you guys on stage dancing and people dancing. I was like, not really. I would have gone for sure.
Super.
I thought you guys. I had in my mind that you guys, like some of the cast members, were meeting up and going to a club. You guys were like performing at a club to your fan kind of thing. I was like, oh shit.
Well, actually, what it was, let me just clarify.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't.
I guess my perception of it.
Basically, one of the like main cast members was like on tour playing with another DJ playing Disney music. So basically, it was like a Disney rave. Okay.
Right.
Where people could like just go have fun and dance to all this music they grew up with.
Yeah.
And then in Salt Lake, and I think also when they were in LA, they had people from the movie come so that during those songs we like came out on stage that we were like part of. It was super fun. It was fun to see everyone. It's crazy to see everyone 20 years later.
Well, 20? And dude, my thing is like, I think you probably heard me say this. Like I say yes to almost everything, unless it's immoral or unethical, right? And even those, I'm like, I'll reserve the right to say yes. But you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, let's just do it. Yeah. If you're like, hey, come to this High School Musical reunion with me, I'm like, great.
Right.
Are we wearing tuxes or like, what are we wearing? You know what I mean?
What's the vibe?
Let's do this shit. Yeah. That has brought me so many experiences in life.
Yes.
It's too easy to stay home and not do anything.
So I will say that is who I struggled with that. I'm an extroverted introvert. I would, like I just said, like, don't make eye contact with me in the elevator. I don't want to, my initial instinct isn't to make new friends.
Yeah.
Does not come naturally to me. My sister, Bailey, is the exact opposite. She is the friendliest, loveliest, like making friends with everyone ever since we were little, where it would be like, oh, Bailey. I remember one time we were in, where were we? Oh, we were at, oh gosh, what's it called? The French Quarter, New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans. Yeah.
We were in New Orleans because we were doing what bowl is there? Sugar Bowl?
Or the
Sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar Bowl's there, right?
Yeah.
So we were working, there was a few years we were working on the halftime show there. And I remember looking around our room and being like, where is Bailey right now? I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in New Orleans. She's abducted. She's murdered by now. Yeah. Okay. And I go downstairs like frantic to look for her. And she's just down there chilling, talking to some like police. It was luckily a police officer. She would have been talking to anybody, but she was like talking to like a police officer about like their life. And I'm just like, how does this even happen? I don't understand. It's something I really struggled with, is like pushing myself to like not be uncomfortable, because I don't mind being uncomfortable, but like sometimes I don't see the value in pushing myself to like leave the house. Or for a long time I was just like, would rather stay home and watch a movie or read my book. And, you know, I didn't really care to push myself to have new experiences. And luckily with different friends and relationships I've had in my life, you know, they've been influences to be better at that. But like last night, have you heard of these candlelight concerts? Oh, yeah. Okay, this is a plug for that. Just kidding. Oh, good. Yeah, I'm totally getting paid. No. Yeah. No, but there's these candlelight concerts where it's, you know, I had never been. I had just seen all these advertisements. And there was a time where I had performed with Hans Zimmer, the conductor. Mm-hmm. And that was one of my favorite experiences, by the way. It was so cool. But I had seen that this Candlelight Concerts was doing a Hans Zimmer night. And I was like, that. So I bought 2 tickets. I'm like, I don't know who's going to go with me yet, but I'm going to go. Found one of my girlfriends to go with me. And then she bailed yesterday. And I was like, oh, I'm still going to go. I was like, and I had a million things to do. I was coming here. I still had to pack. I have a long day of teaching tomorrow. Like, there were so many reasons for me and my introverted self to just be like, oh, let's just chill. Let's just stay in the sweats and let's just hang out. You know, get done whatever you need to get done. And I was like, you know what? No, this is an experience I know afterwards, maybe not right in this moment, but afterwards I'll be like, so happy that I went. And so I got dressed up, went out, took myself, I just was alone and had the most incredible time. It was maybe one of my favorite concerts and experiences I've had in Vegas so far. And I can't say that that's who I would, I don't think I would have done that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 5 years ago. And I love that that's something I'm getting better at. I think there's a balance, right? Like, I don't feel like I need to be out every single night or,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
doing any, always being out of the house or whatever, but understanding that experiences are so important for shaping not only your life, but like you as a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I've actually teared mine back a little bit too, where it's like, I don't want to be like social just to be social. Like it's got to be a thing.
Right.
So, but I'm also, and you're probably the same. It's like, I'm not going to sacrifice time away from my kids if it's not going to be worth it.
100%.
So,
yes.
But you also need to, another thing too, is I can't just always be with my kids either, right? It's overbearing to them, and I need to have outlets in my own world. Yeah. It's an interesting balance, I guess is the best way to put it.
For sure. I mean, mine is forced.
Yeah.
Mine's forced. I mean, Mike and I, we didn't even like go through lawyers or anything when we got divorced. We just split everything down the middle and decided we share the kids evenly and all that. So we switch off every other week. And that can be all on its own a very overwhelming thing to think about. Yeah. To think that I don't get 6 months out of the year with my kids. I don't have them.
Yeah.
And that can, in some moments, feel very heavy. And sometimes I feel guilty that I, every other week, kind of get to not have to, or I get to do more for myself. But it's almost like you have to. Otherwise I sit in the sadness of what I don't have, or that, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't change my situation. I can't be with them more necessarily. So there is a part of me that's just like, make the best out of the situation. And that means I have to kind of embrace my alone time, which it's like a complicated thing, honestly, like mentally. It's like Jenga a bit in my brain, because it's like only certain blocks I feel are like worth pulling, or admitting's the wrong word, but like, am I making sense?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if I were to really think about how much I don't get to be with them, but if I sit and think about that, it's like overwhelming and terrible. But if I think too much about like, oh, I get to enjoy my time, I feel guilty about feeling okay about being away from my kids. Yeah. And it is a balance of that where I'm still figuring it out.
It's probably an acceptance thing.
It is an acceptance thing.
Yeah, you just accept.
That's a great word.
Accept the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
And there's good and bad in all of it, right? The good thing is that when your kids are not with you, they're actually with their dad.
Totally.
Right? And then when they're not with their dad, they're with you. Right. So that they're actually generally probably very well taken care of, and their needs are probably fulfilled all the time. Right. Where with you, right, it's also like, okay, when I'm alone, I need to spend some time being social, and I also need to spend some time being alone. And it probably changes each week. Right.
Totally.
Because if you need 4 days to be alone, take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know I was coming in for my therapy session today.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, this isn't Nick's podcast.
No, that was.
That's an ongoing joke, right? It's like his therapy. He goes,
I didn't. You guys joke about that. That's funny.
Oh, he jokes about it all the time on his podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that there is an acceptance, and there is like making the best out of a situation that, and again, I don't even know if I would change. Like, I really don't know. Actually, again, I don't know if this will make it in, but we can see. Mike and I, my ex-husband and I, we just had this conversation the other day where, I'm trying to think of what brought it up. I think his wife, Izzy, was doing something for the kids or helping out with something. And he brought up like, I know you love being a boss lady, but there really is something special about me coming home and being able to like know that dinner is going to be there, or this or that. And in my head, I'm like, it's not my life. Yeah. I have to work. I don't have a partner supporting me. I don't have, the boats are burned. I have nothing else. It is me. I have me to count on. Yeah. And so I can't really, sit and think about like, oh yeah, that'd be so lovely if I could just whatever. Not even saying if I would necessarily want that. I've always worked, but I've always wanted to be like a supportive partner. I'm not like whatever.
No, 100%. I've watched you do that.
Yeah. But I do feel like I have I must have had an emotional week because this just happened as well. But I have felt at points like, what would that be like? What would that be like to just be able to wake up and worry about getting the kids fed, making their lunches, taking them to school, and whatever they have afterwards. Like I can't, it's because Teddy had a dress rehearsal and I was like frantic. Cause I'm working 2 startups right now. I am a bit all over the place and feeling crazy and feeling like I'm juggling a bunch of balls. And then we're throwing like the dress rehearsal in. I had no idea exactly what she needed to even have for it or this or that. And I was just like, what would that be like to be able to wake up and only worry about that today? Like that's, again, I had like that's unfair moment, but I'm definitely like growing so much more because of these other things that are being asked of me or expected of me. And there's like such gifts in that.
Yeah. Well, you've already said it. Just focus on the good.
Yeah.
The bad doesn't matter.
No.
Also, you never remember the bad unless it's real bad.
I'm like, okay.
I'll tell you, but even some of the real bad, right?
It's true,
in
though.
10 years, you'll remember the good.
Well, I mean, look at me and my ex. Like, honestly, me and my ex-husband, that was a huge breakup, right? Yeah. That was not little, and it wasn't over something little. It was a big deal. And that we can look at each other and support one another. And I mean, I always felt like we could kind of get there, to be honest, but it nothing, you're right. Even the bad stuff doesn't really end up being that bad. Usually ends up being part of the good. Yeah, absolutely. Sheesh.
Well, on that note, I got to wrap up.
Okay.
So you have got to give me your best advice.
Oh, my best advice. I think my best advice would be to be present in every moment that you can be. Like, I think I've wasted so much of my life not being there, not like being like in the moment and worrying too much about what's going to happen. What are they thinking? And if I could go back and change things, that is something I would change. I would change where my mind was and bring it back into the room, bring it back into the conversation, because that is where joy, change, love, conflict, but like working through it type of conflict, that's where that all happens. And if you spend your time outside of that too much, like I think there's so much you're missing out on in life. Yeah.
I could not agree more.
Okay.
Excellent advice, Kel. Excellent.
Thank you. You're like, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I was just trying. No, I mean, I asked that to every guest, right? Yeah. And I love it because, and I like it when they're not prepped because it's just whatever on your mind.
Right.
Right. You'll have not better advice. You'll have different advice tomorrow.
Totally.
You'll have different advice the next day. You could have different advice in 5. I could say something that could actually influence what you'll say.
100%.
So that's why I'm always like, give me your best advice. Because I have people be like, well, what do you mean?
Right.
Whatever comes.
You know, it was a little, I think I started sweating a little bit.
Oh, don't do that.
No, yeah. I feel like that because I think what's been cool about talking about we wouldn't change things or there are certain things we would change. That is something that was just a waste.
Yeah.
And I can look back and go, what a waste of that minute of my life, that year of my life, that this of my life, that was wasted because I wasn't actually there.
Yeah.
And so that would be my advice.
It's excellent advice and everyone can take it.
Yeah.
So, all right, good.
Thanks for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.